Testament books are not difficult to understand. They are not the other side of God. The Old Testament books are not the other side of God. We have seen or the other side of God that we don't see anymore. God was not altered in the four Gospels. You understand? He wasn't altered in the four Gospels. And God did not step down. You know how to step down current. God didn't step down the current. He was, a step down transformer was not used for God in the four Gospels or in the epistles. The difference in the Old Testament and New Testament are fundamentally two things, and you don't want to miss it. The difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament fundamentally are two things. Number one, the language is different. The language is different. Not the content, but the language is different. Number two, the time. The time in which these events happened. Number one, language. Number two, time. The Old Testament is like a project or a plan. The Old Testament is like God's project or God's plan. Then a walk towards the project. God's project, God's plan, then a walk towards the actualization of that project. Then the four Gospels, we find that project commenced. That project commenced. Genesis to Malachi, a project, a plan, and God is working towards that project. Then from Matthew to Revelation is the commencement of that project. Now I said that project commenced in Matthew to Revelation. Let me repeat what I just said for clarity. The Old Testament is the book of a plan. Genesis to Malachi is the book of a plan. Then we begin to walk towards the plan in the four Gospels. We begin to walk towards the actualization of that plan in the four Gospels. Then the New Testament, starting from Matthew, you now have the commencement and that plan still ongoing. The commencement and that plan still ongoing. So usually this fundamental fact is lost on people. This fundamental fact is lost on people. So whenever you see, in the inaugurated plan of God, you will see in the plan. Now, so these are two fundamental things that makes it look different, even though it is not different. The Old Testament is Jesus, the New Testament is Jesus. One concealed, one revealed.